Yo, where are we going? You better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go.
There's something deeply unsettling about watching someone's last moments without them knowing it's the last time. A camera captures laughter in the dark, a wave toward a lens, a voice on a phone call that suddenly shifts from relaxed to tense. Ordinary moments that, in hindsight, carry the weight of everything about to change. The people you're about to hear about all recorded themselves. They posted videos, made phone calls, documented moments they thought were just part of a normal day. They had no idea they were creating evidence. They had no idea these would be the last recordings anyone would ever see of them. Let's begin. It's just after 1 a.m. on May 27, 2018, and a young woman holds up a phone recording her friend as he paddles a small boat through dark water. The video gets posted to Snapchat, and her friend keeps on paddling after that. But what neither of them knew was that within the next hour, one of them will be gone forever. Let's go back a few hours. Spencer Mugford is 20 years old, a student at the University of Connecticut Avery Point. That night, he meets up with his friend Sophia McKenna in the campus parking lot. Sophia is 21, and the two of them have known each other for a while now. They had met while working at a local spa, and even dated briefly before deciding they worked better as just friends. But Sophia's life at this point is complicated. Actually, she's in a relationship with this guy named Austin Cordova, and according to Sophia's mom, Michelle, things between them aren't good. Austin starts seeing someone else while still dating Sophia, and when Sophia finds out, she decides to see other people too. This doesn't go well. When Austin finds out, he shows up at Sophia's apartment and tries to kick down her door and tells her he's going to end her life. Yeah. After that incident, Sophia starts spending more time around Spencer because she feels safer with him. And on this particular night in May, the two friends decide to do something fun and dangerous. They are going to take a boat out to the New London Ledge Lighthouse, a tourist spot in Connecticut, known for being one of the creepiest buildings in the state. They meet at the university parking lot, where Sophia leaves her phone locked in her car, and Spencer leaves his shoes, wallet, and keys hidden in other sailboats at the marina. Then they take a small sailboat with no mast and no motor, just paddles, from the campus dock. It belongs to the university and they don't even have permission to use it, and they head out into the Long Island Sound. Their plan is simple enough: paddle to the lighthouse, check it out, and come back. Easy peasy. But the thing is, the lighthouse sits about a mile offshore, and it's known locally as a haunted spot. There are stories about a lighthouse keeper who jumped to his death decades ago. It's the kind of place you go to at night if you want an adventure. So Sophia and Spencer paddle out. The water is calm. They're joking around. At some point, Sophia picks up Spencer's phone and starts recording. That's the video which I showed in the beginning, the one where she's pointing at the lighthouse, laughing about how far they still have to go. They keep paddling. At exactly 2 a.m., they finally reach the lighthouse. Spencer posts a photo to his Snapchat story. In it, Sophia stands on the narrow concrete ledge at the base of the structure, right in front of a no trespassing sign. What neither of them knew while taking this photo was that this is going to be the last time anyone else sees either of them, because between 2 a.m. and 2:09 a.m., something goes very wrong. At 2:05 a.m., Spencer's phone dials a number. It's Sophia's mom, Michelle. The call goes to voicemail, but the calls don't stop. Over the next 4 minutes, 7 calls go out from Spencer's phone to Michelle's number, but Spencer doesn't have Michelle's number saved in his contacts, which means it's probably Sophia making the calls from Spencer's phone, because if you remember, she has left her phone in her car. But she doesn't leave a voicemail or a text, and she doesn't call 911. Then the calls stop. The next morning, Spencer is supposed to attend his brother's high school graduation, but he doesn't show up. His family gets worried and checks his apartment and their home in Westerly, Rhode Island. They didn't know that he won't be in either of those places and wouldn't be found until days later. Sophia has plans that afternoon too. With her boyfriend Austin, they're supposed to go shopping at the outlets near Foxwoods Casino. When she doesn't show up, Austin starts calling her, but he gets no answer, and hours go by. Finally, Austin calls Sophia's mom, Michelle, to ask if she's heard from her daughter. Michelle hasn't, of course, but it's here when she checks her phone and she sees those 7 missed calls from an unknown number, all between 2:05 and 2:09 that morning. She calls the number back, but it goes to Spencer's voicemail. That's when Michelle knows something is very wrong. She reports Sophia missing, and Spencer's family does the same. It's now about 6 p.m. on May 27th, roughly 15 hours after those 7 calls were made. the Groton Police Department contacts the Coast Guard and the search begins. By 7:40 p.m., the Coast Guard finds something at the lighthouse. It's Spencer's shirt, the Yukon t-shirt he was wearing in the Snapchat video. It's tied to a metal cleat on the lighthouse dock, the kind of thing you'd use to secure a boat. But the boat isn't there, so the search continues. Helicopters, boats, divers, they go all out. Then on Monday afternoon, Austin and his dad decide to launch their own private search. They fly over the water in a small plane, scanning for anything unusual. And they find the sailboat. It's flipped upside down, floating near Truman's Beach on the north shore of Long Island, about 13 miles away from the lighthouse. When investigators examine it later, they find something strange, unidentified fingerprints. But for some reason, those prints are never analyzed. Days pass. The official Coast Guard search gets suspended on May 28th because of harsh weather conditions. They say they'll resume if new information comes in, but for now, the search is on hold. 11 days later, on June 8th, a fisherman is out on the water near North Dumpling Island, about 4.5 miles from the lighthouse, in the opposite direction from where the sailboat was found. He sees something floating. It's Spencer's body. When the autopsy results come back, they find out that Spencer has both alcohol and THC in his system, but the official cause of death is accidental drowning, because there are no signs that another person hurt him. No bruises and no wounds, nothing that suggests violence. But Sophia's body is never found. Now here's where things get complicated. On the surface, this looks like a tragic accident. The most logical explanation is this. At some point after 2 a.m., the sailboat came untied from the lighthouse dock. Maybe the knot slipped, or maybe the current was stronger than Spencer thought. Either way, the boat started drifting away. Spencer probably saw it happening and jumped into the water to bring it back. But the sound is cold, even in late May, and the current is strong. Spencer already has alcohol in his system, which, as we all know, affects coordination and judgment. So he drowns trying to retrieve the boat. That would explain why his shirt was tied to the dock. He secured the boat before something went wrong. It would explain why the boat was found flipped over miles away. It drifted and capsized in the current. And it would explain why Spencer's body was recovered, but showed no signs of violence. But it doesn't explain Sophia. If Spencer drowned trying to get the boat back, what happened to her? This is where the theories start spreading. Theory 1, after Spencer drowned, Sophia was left alone at the lighthouse. She's stranded on a concrete ledge in the middle of the sound, with no phone, no boat, no way to get back to shore. She starts screaming for help. According to this theory, another boater happens to pass by late at night, hears her, and stops to offer help. But instead of helping, this person kidnaps Sophia, either to harm her or to sell her to traffickers. The problem with this theory is timing. How many people are out boating near a lighthouse at 2 a.m. on a Sunday night? It's possible, but not likely. So there's theory 2, that Spencer and Sophia got into some kind of argument at the lighthouse. Something went very wrong between them, and both ended up in the water. But this theory has issues too. If you watch the Snapchat video from just minutes before the calls started, Sophia and Spencer are clearly having fun. They're good friends, and there's no history of violence between them, and they chose to be there together. Why would that suddenly change? And finally, theory 3, that Austin did something. Remember, Austin is Sophia's boyfriend, the one who showed up at her apartment and threatened her life just weeks earlier. He was mad at Sophia for seeing other people while being in a relationship with him, including Spencer. Some people online started suggesting that maybe Austin found out where Sophia was that night, went to the lighthouse, did something to Spencer, and then took Sophia somewhere else. But even Michelle, Sophia's mom, says she doesn't believe Austin was involved. There's no evidence placing him at the lighthouse that night. And he's the one who called Michelle when Sophia didn't show up for their plans, which seems like an odd thing to do if you're guilty. But here's what haunts people about this case. Those 7 phone calls. If Sophia was in danger, why didn't she call 911? She clearly had access to Spencer's phone. She knew her mom's number well enough to dial it 7 times. But she never tried to reach emergency services. There can be an explanation for this, of course, that she was scared of getting in trouble. They were trespassing on a lighthouse in a boat they didn't have permission to use. Maybe Sophia thought calling 911 would get them arrested or expelled from school. Or maybe she hoped her mom would answer and help them figure something out quietly. But if that's true, why not leave a voicemail? Why not send a text explaining what was happening? These questions don't have answers. As of today, more than 6 years later, Sophia is still missing. Her case remains open, but investigators and her family believe the most likely scenario is that she drowned while trying to help Spencer. or fell into the water by accident, or couldn't survive alone at the lighthouse after he was gone. But without a body, without more evidence, it's impossible to know for sure. It's October 2023, and 29-year-old Nancy is so excited she can barely contain it. The previous year, in 2022, she went on this yoga retreat in Guatemala, right next to Lake Atitlan. The lake is stunning, surrounded by volcanoes, and it is the deepest lake in Central America, over 1,000 feet deep in some spots. The yoga instructor was great, the people were kind, and the whole experience was so good that Nancy decided she had to go back in 2023. So here she is again, one of 12 Americans heading to the same retreat by the same lake with the same instructor. Nancy loves yoga and traveling. She loves nature and taking photos and striking up conversations with strangers. She's the kind of person who can talk to anyone about anything. Her family adores her and can't wait to see her again, and they have no idea that in just a few days, she'll be gone, and they will never see her again. On the morning of October 19th, around 10:30 a.m., 10 people from the retreat group decide to go kayaking on Lake Atitlan, and Nancy is one of them. Before they paddle out to the middle of the lake, someone takes a video of the whole group. In the footage, Nancy is a few feet from shore, waving at the camera. She's smiling. She looks happy and relaxed as she paddles her kayak. She's not wearing a life jacket. This is the last time anyone captures Nancy on camera. After the video ends, the group paddles off in different directions. Nancy heads toward the middle of the lake, and she's not alone. Christina, another woman from California, is kayaking out there right beside her too. Christina is a public defender from San Bernardino County. She and Nancy aren't particularly close, but they're on the same retreat, enjoying the same beautiful morning on the water. What happens next depends on who you ask, and that's where everything falls apart. Less than an hour later, the group returns to shore, but something is very, very wrong. According to the owners of the kayak rental company, the group comes back looking nervous, on edge, and shaken. And they're missing someone. Nancy isn't with them. The owners notice immediately. They try to ask what happened, but nobody in the group wants to talk. They're evasive and rushed. According to the owners, the group doesn't even pay for the kayaks before leaving. They just want to get out of there as fast as possible. Christina looks especially distressed. Multiple witnesses say she's visibly shaken and has to be calmed down by other people in the group, but she doesn't explain what happened. Nobody does. And the even stranger thing is, the group wasn't supposed to leave Guatemala for a few more days. But within 8 hours of returning from the lake, they're all gone. They pack up, head to the airport, and fly back to the United States. Nancy's family doesn't know any of this yet. When they first hear from Eddie, the retreat organizer, he doesn't even tell them Nancy is missing. He just says vaguely that she's not coming back. Nancy's family initially thinks she's decided to stay in Guatemala permanently. Maybe she fell in love with the place, or maybe she is extending her trip or something. It takes them a while to realize the truth, that their daughter is gone, and nobody knows where she is. The timeline of what happens next is pretty murky to say the least. According to Eddie, the group reported Nancy's disappearance to Guatemalan police right away. But according to the police themselves, it takes nearly 24 hours before anyone files a report. That's a full day where Nancy could be drowning, injured, lost, and nobody is officially looking for her. By the time the police start searching, the entire retreat group is already back in the United States. Nancy's family is frantic. They reach out to everyone they can think of. Retreat participants, the yoga instructor, anyone who might know what happened. Most people don't respond. Some give vague, unhelpful answers. But one name keeps coming up. Christina. She was the last person with Nancy. She's the only one who knows what happened out on that lake. Nancy's family tries everything to reach Christina. They send emails and pass along their phone number through the retreat organizer. They even try to reach out through mutual contacts. Days pass, then weeks. Christina doesn't respond to any of it. Finally, almost a month after Nancy disappears, Christina breaks her silence, but she doesn't speak to Nancy's family or to the search and rescue teams trying to find Nancy's body. Instead, she releases a statement through her lawyer. Here's what Christina says, according to her attorney. She and Nancy didn't plan to kayak together. They just happened to run into each other out on the lake and started chatting. Then Nancy said she wanted to go for a swim. Christina told her not to. The water was rough. The current was strong. Lake Atitlan is incredibly deep, over 600 feet in some areas. It's not a safe place to swim, especially not in the middle of the lake. But Nancy didn't listen. She jumped into the water and in the process pushed her kayak away. Christina tried to help and stretched one leg into her own kayak and one leg into Nancy's, trying to bring it back to her. She got close, but then she lost the kayak again. She turned around to grab it, and when she looked back, Nancy was gone. Just like that, vanished beneath the surface. Christina says she paddled back to shore as fast as she could, screaming for help. A distress call went out, but by the time anyone could respond, it was too late. Christina's lawyer insists she did everything right. She talked to Guatemalan police and gave them a full statement. She even tried to tell them where to look. Then she left the country, traumatized by what she'd witnessed. But here's the problem. When Nancy's family contacts the Guatemalan police, they say they have no record of Christina's statement. There's nothing in their files, no official account of what happened, and no witness report. No nothing. The prosecutor's office has the same story. They tried to get Christina's statement, but by the time they started investigating, she was already back in the United States, so they couldn't compel her to testify. They can't force her to cooperate, so they have an investigation with no witness, no body, and no answers. Nancy's family is losing their minds. They hire private search and rescue teams and raise money on GoFundMe, over $100,000 in donations from people all over the world who want to help. They bring in helicopters, boats, divers, sonar equipment. They search for weeks, then months. They find nothing. In December 2023, a specialized underwater search team called Bruce's Legacy comes to Guatemala to look for Nancy. These are experts, people who've spent decades recovering drowning victims from lakes and rivers, but even they struggle. As we already know, the lake is massive and the water is deep and murky, and they don't have the one piece of information that would make the search possible: Christina's account of exactly where Nancy went under. The search team reaches out to Christina directly, hoping she'll help narrow down the search area. Even a rough estimate would be invaluable. They're not asking her to relive trauma or defend herself. They just need to know where to look. But Christina doesn't respond. As the search drags on, more and more inconsistencies start piling up. People who were on the retreat give conflicting stories. Some say Nancy's kayak was found right side up with the paddle missing. Others say it was upside down with the paddle inside. Some say the group was offered life jackets but declined. Others insist no life jackets were ever visible at the rental shop. Then there are the bribe allegations. According to multiple sources, someone paid off a local police officer to remove Christina's statement from the report and let the group leave the country without being detained. The officer in question gives a statement, but it only raises more questions. He says he was told Nancy fell from her kayak, not that she jumped in to swim, like Christina's lawyer claims. He admits 2 foreigners came to the police station but says he didn't know who they were and that they left after just 10 minutes. Other witnesses say those 2 foreigners were Christina and another retreat participant. So why is there no record of what they said? Nancy's family pushes for answers. They contact the US Embassy and even reach out to the FBI. They hire a lawyer in Guatemala to push the investigation forward. The Guatemalan prosecutor assigned to the case, a man named Requinos, assures them he's working on it. He says he'll get statements from key witnesses and that he'll investigate the bribe allegations and that he'll use international legal channels to compel Christina to testify. Months pass. Nothing happens. The family emails Requinos, but there is no response from him. They call his office and it turns out he's on vacation, so they try again a couple days later, and this time he's at a doctor's appointment. They even reach out to higher-ups in the prosecutor's office. Still nothing. In September 2024, almost a year after Nancy disappeared, the Guatemalan government finally issues subpoenas for Christina and Eddie, the retreat organizer. They're ordered to appear at the Guatemalan consulate in Los Angeles for a virtual hearing to explain why a US citizen didn't return home from their country. But neither of them shows up. Nancy's family is devastated. They've done everything they can think of. They've raised awareness on social media, gotten coverage from major news outlets, and contacted their congresswoman, Judy Chu, who agrees to help. They've emailed the US ambassador to Guatemala thousands of times, begging for assistance. But 2 years later, they still don't have answers. They still don't have Nancy. And the searches continue, even as I speak. In March 2025, another team goes out to Lake Atitlan with advanced sonar equipment. They cover a huge area, the best estimate of where Nancy might have gone under, based on witness accounts and weather patterns, but they don't find her. They plan another search for December 2025, but it gets postponed to March 2026 due to equipment damage and bad weather. As of now, Nancy's body has never been recovered. The investigation is technically still open. Guatemalan authorities say they can't rule out homicide, so the case will remain active for 10 years. But there's been no progress and no new information. Nancy's family is stuck in a nightmare with no end. They can't move on because they don't know what happened. They can't grieve properly because they don't have a body to bury. And they can't even find peace because the people who know the truth won't tell them. On what would have been her 30th birthday in 2024, her family gathered at the beach to write letters to her. They did a beach cleanup in her honor, knowing how much Nancy cared about the environment, and they left an empty chair at the dinner table on Thanksgiving. Her younger sister Nikki keeps a list on her phone titled Tell Nancy 2024. It's full of little updates she wants to share with Nancy when they meet again. Things like, our cousin had a baby girl. I taught mom and dad how to play pickleball. I used your tennis racket for my first lesson. Momo the cat likes to be carried now. It's the kind of list you make when you can't accept that someone is really gone, and the person who knows why won't tell her. It's August 2010, and 20-year-old Amber is getting ready for something she has been waiting for months. She's flying from Fort McMurray to Edmonton with her 14-month-old son Jacob and her friend for a short vacation. Just a few days to get away, see the city, and have some fun. To save money, they book a cheap hotel in Nisku, a small town just outside Edmonton. The plan is simple: stay the night, then head into the city for their vacation the next morning. Amber is from the Mikisew Cree First Nation. She lives with her mother Vivian in Fort McMurray, and she's a devoted mom to her son Jacob, who doesn't know that in less than 24 hours, his mom will be gone forever. On August 18th, 2010, around 8 p.m., Amber is at the hotel in Nisku, but she's too excited to wait until morning. Edmonton is right there, just a short drive away, so she decides to hitchhike into the city that night. She walks out to the road and gets into a car with an unknown man. During the ride, Amber receives a phone call. The conversation is recorded, and years later, that recording will become one of the most chilling pieces of evidence in Canadian crime history. On the call, the male driver can be heard in the background. He's reassuring Amber, telling her they're heading east on a back road toward Edmonton. But at some point during that drive, Amber realizes something is wrong. Her voice changes, she sounds nervous and suspicious. Then she says "You'd better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go." The call ends, and Amber is never seen alive again.
Bye.
We're just heading south of Beaumont, or north of Beaumont.
We're heading north to Beaumont. Yo, where are we going? Yo, we're not going in the city, are we?
We're going
No, we're not.
50th Street.
50th Street, are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yo, where are we going?
50th Street.
50th Street?
50th Street.
East, right?
When Amber doesn't come back to the hotel the next morning, her friend calls Vivian, who immediately calls the RCMP. And this is where everything goes, frankly, horribly and devastatingly wrong. The RCMP tells Vivian that Amber is probably just out partying. They say she'll call when she's ready to come back or whatever, and they tell Vivian she needs to wait 24 hours before they can start a missing persons investigation. Vivian is furious. She tells them Amber doesn't leave her baby anywhere, but the police brush her off. Days pass, then weeks. The RCMP does nothing. On September 4th, 2010, more than 2 weeks after Amber disappeared, the RCMP releases a press statement saying they don't believe Amber is in any danger. But Vivian knows something is terribly wrong. She keeps calling, keeps pushing, keeps begging them to take this seriously. But the RCMP just won't listen. Eventually, Amber is officially listed as a missing person. But then, based on unconfirmed sightings that were never verified, the RCMP removes her from the missing persons list. Vivian finds out and calls them immediately. She asks, "Did you see her?" They say no. She asks, "Then how can you take her off the list?" And of course, they have no answer. It takes Vivian an entire month of fighting, calling different numbers, getting the runaround before they finally put Amber back on the missing persons list. And then it gets worse. While Amber was off the missing persons list, the RCMP collected her belongings from the hotel room in Nisku, including her suitcase and personal items, all of those things that are potential evidence. And they destroyed it. Yeah. Apparently they accidentally threw it all away. Meanwhile, the investigation itself is going nowhere. The RCMP still doesn't begin seriously investigating Amber's disappearance until a full month after she was reported missing, and even then they don't conduct a single interview for 4 months. And here's the most insane part. They never interview the female friend who traveled with Amber from Fort McMurray to Edmonton, the last person to see Amber before she got in that car, and the person who could provide critical information about Amber's state of mind, her plans, what she was wearing. The RCMP never talks to her. Not once. Then there's the phone call. That terrifying recording where Amber says, "You'd better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go."
You better not take me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city.
The RCMP has that recording. They've had it since August 2010, actually. But they don't release it to the public until August 28th, 2012, which is almost 2 years later. And that was probably one of their biggest mistakes, because when they finally do release it, the response is immediate and several women come forward and they all identify the same man and say they recognize his voice. The RCMP investigates him and then says he's not a person of interest. 4 days after the audio is released, on September 1st, 2012, horseback riders find human remains in a field in Leduc County, south of Edmonton, exactly where police believe the unknown driver took Amber. The remains are identified through dental records. And yes, it's Amber. By this point, it's been 2 years since she disappeared. 2 years of Vivian fighting for answers, begging the RCMP to take her daughter's case seriously, and sadly, watching them fumble and fail at every turn. And now all she has left is her grandson, Jacob. In her own words, "I am 56 years old now, and raising a little boy that is so full of energy," Vivian says. "He drives me crazy, but at the same time, he's my sanity. I mean, he is all that I have left of my baby." In March 2014, Vivian files a formal complaint with the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission against the RCMP. She details everything: the delays, the dismissiveness, the destroyed evidence, the removed missing persons listing, the failure to interview key witnesses. The commission conducts an independent review, and it takes them 4 whole years. A bit more than that, actually. In August 2018, they release a 120-page report, and the findings are damning. The report concludes that the RCMP's investigation was, quote, deficient. It said that the officers were either not properly trained or didn't follow their training, and multiple members didn't comply with basic procedures and guidelines. The report confirms that removing Amber from the missing persons list was, quote, an erroneous decision. It confirms that destroying her belongings was a failure to follow proper policy, and that waiting 4 months to conduct interviews was unreasonable and unexplained. I mean, you don't exactly need a 120-page report that took more than 4 years to make to conclude that, but whatever. What matters is that the report officially confirms everything Vivian has been saying for 8 years at this point. 11 months after the report is released, in July 2019, RCMP Deputy Commissioner Curtis Zablocki finally formally apologizes to the family of Amber.
At the beginning of this investigation, the RCMP was not the police service we strive to be. On behalf of the RCMP, I am truly sorry.
He says the investigation was not our best work. But Vivian rightfully rejects the apology, because it doesn't bring Amber back and it doesn't solve her murder. It doesn't even identify the man in that recording. And it most definitely doesn't change the fact that if the RCMP had taken Amber's disappearance seriously from the beginning, if they'd investigated immediately, interviewed witnesses, preserved evidence, released that audio recording right away, maybe things would be different. As of 2025, Amber's case is still unsolved, and her murderer is out there, still free. It's September 14th, 2007, and 14-year-old Andrew Gosden wakes up early in the morning. He gets dressed in his school uniform just like he always does. He opens his front door, says goodbye to his family, and sets off towards school, just like he always does. But on this occasion, Andrew never arrives at school. Instead, Andrew withdraws €200 from his bank account and buys a one-way ticket to London, and his family has no idea that this would be the last time they see Andrew. Andrew was born in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, in the north of England. His parents were both committed Christians but never forced Andrew to participate in religion, instead allowing him the freedom to choose. Andrew was a boy who loved to be at home and never really liked going outside, which is why him doing this is so out of character, as he preferred the company of his family instead, or would like to be just by himself. At school, he was a straight A student who was often described as intelligent and gifted by teachers and other students. He was especially good at mathematics, and had even won prizes for it. His teachers always thought that he would eventually attend a world-class institute like Cambridge University. Andrew never even once missed a day of school and was always very well behaved, and he had a perfect disciplinary record. He was so good at studies, in fact, that his biggest complaint about school was that it wasn't challenging enough, and his biggest hope for the coming year was that hopefully this year the studies are hard enough for him to feel challenged. During the school holidays in 2006, Andrew attended a special program for exceptionally bright students, a 2-week trip to Lancaster University. Upon returning, his parents found him to be much more energetic than usual. He had clearly enjoyed the trip, which was very strange for him because he was usually far more reserved and detached. Andrew did have some friends at school, all of whom were overachievers like him. They all spoke nice things about Andrew, but he never associated with any of them outside of school. He had never shown any signs of mental health problems, and there was no evidence that he was ever bullied at school either. Andrew's dad described him as a deep character who often kept his emotions in check and would never have any sorts of emotional outbursts. He also described him as being a bit absent-minded in the sense that he wasn't really all that aware of his surroundings all the time, and even his teachers describe him as shy and quiet, but still mature beyond his years. Andrew had little to no interest in socializing with people, and rarely even used a mobile phone. In fact, he had been given one for his 12th birthday but lost it, and decided not to have it replaced. Instead, he asked for a new Xbox. Andrew enjoyed playing video games and listening to heavy metal music. During the 2007 summer holidays, Andrew's parents suggested that he take a trip to London to visit his grandmother. He had done this before and was said to be very familiar with London and its underground transit system and could easily navigate through it even on his own. But Andrew decided not to visit London. He wanted to stay home for the summer holidays. A couple of days before his disappearance, he changed his daily routine twice. For most people, this wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary, but in Andrew's case, he hadn't changed his routine throughout his entire school life. On 2 separate occasions, Andrew decided to skip the bus ride home and instead walk. His school was 4 miles away from home, and the walk takes approximately 1 hour and 20 minutes. Nobody knows why he chose to do this. The night before his disappearance, he came home from school as usual, ate dinner with his family, washed the dishes, and then spent an hour making a jigsaw puzzle with his dad before watching Mock the Week with his mother. All in all, it was a very ordinary evening. The next day, on September 14th, Andrew woke up irritable, something his mother noted because it was very unusual. He was normally a very early riser and a morning person. At 8:05 a.m., he left the family home and was spotted by Reverend Alan Murray crossing a local park on his way to the bus stop. Instead of catching the bus, however, Andrew took a detour and visited a local cash machine and took out his savings. A few minutes later, a neighbor's CCTV camera captured Andrew returning home and entering the house. Inside, Andrew changed out of his school uniform into black jeans and a Slipknot t-shirt. He then placed his school blazer on a chair, picked up his keys and wallet, and stuffed them into his bag, a bag that was covered with logos of heavy metal bands. He then grabbed his Sony PSP and walked out the door. He did not take the charger for his PSP, his passport, or his birthday money, which was around £100. At 8:30 a.m., Andrew was seen by local CCTV walking toward Doncaster railway station. He walked up to the ticket counter and bought a one-way ticket to London. The clerk told Andrew to buy a return ticket because it was only 50 pence more expensive. But Andrew insisted on a one-way ticket only. At 9:35 a.m., Andrew boarded the train and sat next to a woman who later said that he seemed quiet and was completely fixated on his video game. At Andrew's school around the same time, the staff noticed that he wasn't there. Because Andrew had never missed a single day of school in his entire life and was never late, they immediately asked the secretary to call his parents. The secretary called and left a message on their answer phone. The train arrives at London King's Cross station at 11:20 a.m. Andrew gets off, and by 11:25 a.m., he is seen by station CCTV leaving through the main entrance. This is the last confirmed sighting of 14-year-old Andrew Gosden. When his parents returned home from work that evening, they initially believed Andrew to be in the basement playing video games. This was his normal routine after all. It's only when they sit down for dinner and Andrew doesn't join them that they realize he isn't home. They call his friends thinking he may have visited someone and lost track of time, but he's not there. They then call the school, and that's when the school informs them that Andrew wasn't at school all day. Turns out the school had accidentally left the voicemail for the wrong parents in a mix-up at administration, so Andrew's parents weren't even notified on time. When the school tells them that Andrew hadn't been there at all despite the family watching him leave for school that morning, they immediately call the police and then head out into the night to look for him. They retrace his route to school hoping to find any clues, but they find nothing. A couple of hours later, they make a missing person leaflet, and start handing it out throughout the neighborhood. When it gets too dark to continue looking, they return home and wait for the police. The following day, the police search the local area but find nothing. A few days later, the woman who sold Andrew the train ticket comes forward with information and confirms that Andrew did travel to London. She said that she found his insistence on buying only a one-way ticket strange when the return ticket was barely more expensive. It's this detail which made Andrew stick in her memory. Following this, the family travels to London to hand out flyers around the area where they have family, thinking that might be where Andrew had gone. The police also asked the British Transport Police to review CCTV footage to try and track Andrew's movements in London. Initially, they can't find Andrew in any of the footage, so Yorkshire Police send one of their own officers all the way down to London to review the footage again, and after 2 weeks of searching through hundreds of hours of tape, they finally identify Andrew because of the very noticeable double piercing on his ear. Within the first 2 weeks of his disappearance, several people claimed to have seen Andrew in various places around London. Some of these sightings the family thought seemed credible because the witnesses described Andrew's manner and behavior accurately. One claimed sighting was at a Pizza Hut on Oxford Street, about 2.5 miles from King's Cross Station. There were other claimed sightings near train stations and museums across London. Andrew's father said that the police never properly investigated these sightings. 1 year later, a man walks into a police station in Leominster, claiming to have information about Andrew. At that time, the station didn't have anyone at the front desk after hours and used an intercom system instead. In the time it took for an officer to come downstairs to speak with him, the man had already left. What made this really unusual is that this particular police station is located in a business park that isn't on any major public transport route, so visiting it would require someone to go completely out of their way to get there. Police appealed for the man to come back, but he never did. Later, someone who claimed to be the same man wrote anonymously to the BBC saying they'd seen someone matching Andrew's description in Shrewsbury in November 2008. But it was never confirmed if this was the same person from the police station, and the sighting was never verified either. In September 2009, Kevin, Andrew's father, made a public appeal to the LGBTQ community. He said that maybe Andrew had been struggling with his identity and hadn't felt able to talk about it because of his parents' religion, even though they would have been supportive. Throughout the years, the family and police made repeated attempts to find new information using both traditional media and social media, but nothing ever led anywhere. The family also became increasingly frustrated with how the police handled the investigation. They said the police rarely followed up on leads properly, and instead seemed much more focused on the family themselves, as if they were responsible for Andrew's disappearance. Kevin claimed the police recorded their conversations without permission and tried to pressure him into admitting that he had something to do with his son going missing. He also said that some leads and sightings weren't followed up on for weeks, which meant that even if they were genuine, the trail would have gone completely cold by the time police actually looked into them. Then, in 2018, when Andrew's parents appeared on the Generation Y podcast, they mentioned something strange. Someone had reported an online conversation with a person using the name Andy Rue, which was Andrew's nickname. This person said their boyfriend had left them and they needed £200 to pay rent. When someone offered to send them money, they said they didn't have a bank account because they'd left home when they were 14. This proved that Kevin's theory about Andrew struggling with his identity turned out to be true. As of 2025, Andrew Gosden is still missing. He would be 37 years old now, and his family is still waiting for answers.
It's a person, dude. No, seriously, pull over, pull over.
No.
It's a person standing there.
No, it's not.
Dude, if you've seen what I've seen right now.
Want to know what happens when you point a camera at something you weren't supposed to see? Sometimes nothing. Sometimes your video gets a few views and everyone moves on with their lives. And sometimes you post a video on April 10th and you're dead by June, with millions of people trying to figure out what you filmed that was worth making you disappear. Andrew Dawson was just some guy living in Canada, posting videos of his dog and his family and whatever else ordinary people post when they're just trying to document their existence. He wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He wasn't hunting for Bigfoot. He wasn't one of those people who spends their life looking for something strange to validate some theory they've been nursing since childhood. He was just driving past a mountain on April 10th, 2022, when he saw something tall standing on the peak, something that didn't move like a tree or a rock formation, something that his brain interpreted as a person, even though the scale was all wrong for that to make sense. He filmed it, his hands shaking because he zoomed in as far as his phone will go, trying to keep the image steady while his friend in the car is telling him he's seeing things. You can hear in his voice that he's not trying to start an internet mystery, he's just confused about what he's looking at and wants confirmation that he's not losing his mind. He posts the video thinking maybe a few hundred people will see it, maybe someone local will tell him it's a known landmark or a cell tower or whatever rational explanation exists for a giant figure standing motionless on a mountain peak. The video posts on April 10th. By April 11th, it's got millions of views, and Andrew's scrolling through comments from people all over the world telling him he's found a giant. He's discovered proof of something the government's been hiding. He's got Parkinson's disease and that's why the camera's shaking. He posts an update saying if the video blows up, maybe someone can rent him a helicopter so he can fly up there and get a closer look, prove what he saw was real, and you can tell from the way he's talking that he still thinks this is just going to be a fun internet moment, a weird thing that happened that he can laugh about later. April 13th, 3 days after the first video. Andrew goes back to the mountain to film the figure again, except when he gets there and zooms in on the exact spot where he saw it before, there's nothing. Just empty mountain peak, just rock and sky. And he's using his phone like a tripod to keep it steady this time so no one can blame the shaking. And he's telling his audience that he talked to some locals who said the thing comes and goes, which is the kind of vague non-answer that makes you more confused than before. But here's where it stops being a fun internet mystery and starts being something else entirely, because later that same day, April 13th, Andrew posts another video, and he's visibly rattled now, saying he just got stopped by what he called a CIA agent blocking the road with his truck, telling Andrew he's trespassing on public land, claiming there's some environmental issue and the area's closed off. Andrew didn't get it on camera because he wasn't filming when it happened, which is the kind of detail that makes people skeptical except for what happens next, because that same day, April 13th, Andrew posts another video, and this time he's filming something on the mountain that's not standing on the peak anymore, it's hovering next to it. And then, still on April 13th, same day, Andrew films 2 helicopters circling the mountain, extracting something from the peak, and you can hear in the video that he's not narrating anymore, he's just filming silently because at this point what is there to say that isn't going to sound insane? April 14th, 4 days after the first video. Andrew goes back to the mountain and the same agent is there again, blocking the road, telling him it's closed, and this time Andrew's filming the interaction, and you can see the guy in his truck just sitting there, professional and calm, not explaining anything, just telling Andrew to turn around and leave. Andrew drives past him on his way back and films the guy watching him go. And there's something about the way this person just sits there, not angry, not threatening, just present and immovable, that makes it clear this isn't some random park ranger worried about hikers. This is someone whose job is to make sure Andrew stops going to that mountain. Then Andrew doesn't post for 3 days. 3 days of silence from someone who's been posting multiple updates daily, 3 days of millions of people refreshing his page wondering if he's okay, or if something happened, or if he just got bored of the whole thing. April 17th, he finally posts again, and this time he's filming from his house, and the same vehicle he saw at the mountain is now parked outside his home, just sitting there, and when Andrew comes out to film it, the vehicle speeds away. Then Andrew goes silent for 20 days. May 7th, 2022, Andrew finally reappears and posts a video saying he's fine, he's been busy with life, and here's the important part. He says all his videos were fake, they were scripted, it was all just entertainment and he's sorry to disappoint everyone. Except no one believes him, because Andrew's sitting there looking at the camera like someone's standing just off screen holding a script he's been told to read, his voice flat and mechanical, repeating phrases like strictly for entertainment that sound like they came from a legal team's damage control book rather than from someone casually explaining a prank. The comments fill up with people saying he's clearly being forced to say this, that he's in danger, that someone got to him and made him recant everything, and the video doesn't calm anyone down, it just makes millions of people more convinced that whatever Andrew filmed was real, and someone powerful wants everyone to think it wasn't. Andrew goes silent again for 10 days. May 17th, he posts a video looking exhausted and disturbed, his face doing that thing faces do when the person behind them has stopped sleeping or eating properly, and he says, "You might not see me post ever again, and my videos weren't fake," directly contradicting what he said 10 days earlier, like he's trying to get the truth out one more time before it's too late to say anything at all. May 18th, 2022. Andrew posts his final video, filming the same mountain, and there's a new structure visible on the peak now, something that wasn't there before, and he captions it military, and asks in the video, "What is that? That was not there yesterday." And then he stops posting forever, And that would be the last time anyone hears from Andrew. He just disappears. And over 1 month later, Andrew Dawson is pronounced dead. Millions of people still ask what happened to Andrew Dawson. The mountain's still there. Whatever was on it either remains or got removed by those helicopters. And Andrew's TikTok sits frozen in time as a document of what happens when you see something you weren't supposed to see and make the mistake of asking why.